So for part A, we were asked to uh, iterate through an array and find the sum of the values in the array. So I started by initializing a variable sum to 0 and initializing len to the length of the array. Then I created a for loop starting at index 0, making sure that it's less than the length of the array, and adding 1 through each time we run through the loop. Each time we add the value of the value at index I to the sum, and once it's finished we return the sum. For part B, we were asked to go through a two-dimensional array and return the sums of each row in a one-dimensional array so that at index k in the array of sums, the row represented by index k would be, its sum would be in that index. So I started by initializing a variable number of rows to the number of rows, the length of the two-dimensional array. Then I initialized a one-dimensional array of integers to, I gave it length number of rows. I made an iterator k equal to 0. So I said for each one-dimensional array in the two-dimensional array, the value in sums at index k should be changed to the value of the sum at the value of the sum of the values in the one-dimensional array at row k, and then k adds 1 each time we go through the loop, and then at the end you return sums. So for part C, we were supposed to figure out whether a two-dimensional array was diverse, and in order to do that you have to compare all of the sums of its rows, So I created first in a one-dimensional array using the row sums method we defined earlier that contained the sums of all of the rows of the two-dimensional array that we input. Then I started a for loop starting at index 0, less than the length of the array of sums, and we iterate each time we go through the loop. Inside that there's another for loop that iterates through the remaining values starting at index I plus 1, and that goes on until the end of the array of sums. And within that we say if the value coming from this loop is equal to the value generated by this loop, that it is not diverse, so that it returns false. And if we run through all of this and no values are the same, at the end of the program we return true.